You know, I came across an interesting statistic the other day. I was looking at some stats on the gender balance in the logistics and supply chain industry. And we know it's kind of male heavy, but I was shocked to find out it's about 79% male, particularly in the logistics part of the industry. And you know, it hasn't changed for over 10 years. That's a bit of a worry. Hi, this is Rob O'Byrne from Logistics Bureau, and I wanted to sort of dig a little bit deeper behind that statistic. And so we've got an expert to talk to today, and that's Angela Tatlis, who is the founder and director of an organisation called NAWO, which is here in Australia. It's the National Association for Women in Operations.
Correct.
Got that right?
Yes.
We'll refer to it now from now on as NAWO.
That's perfect.
And Angela, I'd really love to hear your views on this, and we can share that with people watching. So I guess the question that sort of springs to mind is, why is the industry so male sort of dominant?
Yeah. Well, I think, like anything, you look at people as a spectrum, and there's the women who want to be a ballerina or an artist, and there's women who are very comfortable in very operational roles. And so, if we focus this conversation on those women who are already on, say, the left-hand side of the spectrum, what happens is a lot of those women have got really good, strong balance of skills. They've got strong process, analytical systems, skills which are great in heavier industry like logistics. They often have higher relationship bias too. So they often will have that coaching conversation, or they'll talk to someone about their performance before it blows up into an issue. But they aren't the skills that have traditionally been valued in heavy industry. So then they're always a little bit misfit. So they kind of take those skills and they apply them in more fertile ground in other industries, going, well, I can have a bigger bang for my buck for all the effort I put in, I'll get a bigger return.
It's interesting you say that, because I work across a lot of industries, and we were talking earlier about pharmaceutical sector. There's a lot of women in supply chain logistics in the pharma sector, but not so many in others.
Well, personally, I spent 11 years, and I had a very meteoric rise within the pharmaceutical industry. But it was like a boiled frog, as I mentioned before. When I got out as an Australian in Australian business, I didn't realise how bad it was. I always knew I was the only girl in the room, but I didn't know it was a problem until I started to actually speak to other women who had not had that 11 years of growth in a pharma business, which was so much more female friendly. So, so one of the things when I look forward, I think, as organisations, heavy industry, we've started to realise we need to be better on the relationship skills. And I don't actually mean that we've become inherently soft. No. I think there's still a long way from that. But we also know that there's not a job for life anymore. So where you used to be able to just kind of network within your own organisation, there's so much more movement. So by default, people are networking a lot more. Now, networking and trust go hand in hand, and women are good at building trust. So I think what's happened is as those organisations change, outsourcing happens, all sorts of things change, the dynamics of what used to be, where you worked in the same company for a long time, is those skills of trust and relationship building become more of a commercial imperative, whereas before they were just soft fluff. And so I think for heavy industry, those skills are becoming more important. They are becoming more recognised. What we need to do next from a logistics, manufacturing, etc., is we need to actually start to say, okay, I need to actually appoint some senior females into commercial roles, whether it be head of operations or head of marketing, sales, whatever, not per se head of HR, which is fine to have a female head of HR, but it needs to be more than that. And we need to get to that point and say, okay, I'm prepared to take that risk and do that positive affirmation. But you've got to realise that this first woman who's going to be appointed there, she's not just now doing her job. She's not just head of operations now. She's head of operations and she's a white knight. She's a change agent, and she can't do all of that and never make a mistake. No. So the organisation has to have the resilience, because she's going to do it differently to her predecessors.
I think, in an earlier conversation we were having, organisations need to understand that if they are, very heavily weighted towards men, they're actually missing out on some softer skills, which women can bring to the business.
Correct, and we've seen at different things that you and I have been at, like SMART, and the discussion about relationships in building the supply chain of the integrated network of suppliers and suppliers and customers, and how relationship-driven that is to drive real value, commercial value out of organisations. So, I think if we go where to next for organisations, we need to actually start to put those women not into HR roles but into commercial roles. We need to be willing that they will do it differently, and that doesn't mean bad. Except that they'll make some mistakes just like anybody else who's stepping up to the plate for the first time. And I'd go one step further. When they're ready encourage them to be the champion for women, because often what happens is that women get there and they go, ooh, can't talk about women at the table because I'll be seen as the soft touch. I'll be seen as the girl who's just looking after her own cause. So they say nothing.
Okay.
And for their own personal strategy, that's fine. But the impact of them actually being able to almost come out and say, you know what, I will help other women and I will share my experiences, that will help gain some critical mass. So for me, we're not there yet as Australian industry. Other countries are getting there. We're at this point now that senior people in this diversity debate are really starting to question quotas, and most people are still going, no, quotas.
I think people get uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, they do. And look, probably less uncomfortable than they were 2 years ago, but there's still a high degree of discomfort with that notion. So, you know, unless we're going to have it forced down on us, we have to start to do something voluntarily. So, so I think it's not an insurmountable hurdle, but we have to have the courage to do something and take a risk.
And we were talking earlier about some of the work that NAWO does, which is really fascinating, and we'll put a link below the video so you can jump on and have a look at the organisation and the great work that you're doing. Because there's just a bit of an imbalance out there, and I think it's probably, you know, whatever the ratio should be, who knows, but it doesn't seem right at the moment, does it?
No, it's not. And look, you know, NAWO is an industry group. It's manned by volunteers. It really is about people putting their shoulder against the wheel. No one's getting paid out of this activity. But that's not just for women. A lot of the volunteers are women, but we've actually got CEO men who are our ambassadors. We've got CEO men on our board. You know, we've got mentors who are men. So it actually, you know, and I mentioned this, Rob, before, it's actually much more powerful if a man says something needs to be fixed than if I or any other female says it needs to be fixed. You know, the power of the male voice is probably 20 times the power of the female voice on this issue.
Which is sad, but okay.
Well, otherwise it's possibly seen as self-serving.
Yeah, no, I understand.
A male can't be self-serving on that topic in the same way.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
So, but thank you for the opportunity.
No,
to
Angela, look, I was fascinated to have our discussion earlier, and I thought, you know, this is a topic that other people will find really interesting. So, let's see if we can shift that 79% down a little bit. It would be really good.
I look forward to the day not being the only female in the room.
Yeah. I have to say, I do work with some companies which are almost run by women, and it's interesting. They're very different.
They are.
And they're really effective.
Yep, and then you might just have to listen to 5 minutes of hair talk, like we have listened to 5 minutes of football talk for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Angela, thanks very much for sharing your views today.
No problem, Rob. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.